Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exciting CHRO mega panel discussion on the topic Reimagining Work, Workplace, and Workforce. The pandemic transformed the way we work and live forever, and it is understood that there is no looking back now. The many disruptions that came about with the pandemic forced organizations to reimagine work, workplace, and workforce. Traditional methods or processes were no longer relevant. From the adoption of technology at a faster pace than one can imagine, to reinventing work processes and focusing on people and their well-being, there have been transformations in all forms. In this panel discussion today, we will delve deeper into how the pandemic paved the way for organizations to reimagine and reinvent themselves and focus on what is most important for them to step into a future that will remain uncertain for a while. And it is with great pleasure that I invite and introduce our esteemed panel speakers for this session. First up, we have Peck, who is CHRO and Advisor, Workforce Development, Singapore PSD, Prime Minister's Office. As the Chief HR Officer and Advisor for the Public Service Division, Peck is responsible for professionalizing HR in the public sector of 16 ministries and more than 50 statutory boards. She's also the elected president of the Singapore Human Resources Institute. Next up, we have Monique Yong, Group CHRO, Columbia, Asia. Monique is an HR professional with more than 2 decades of experience holding several pivotal roles across a number of multinationals in various global leadership functions. She has a proven strong consultancy and leadership experience globally and regionally across various industries, having been based in Switzerland, Hong Kong, and Singapore previously. Next up, we have Augustino Yudiyantho, Head of Human Capital Talent, Organization and Performance, PT Bank Mandiri. Stephen specializes in corporate university setup, leadership development strategy, talent management, succession planning, employee engagement, performance development, organization development, rewards, and HR strategy. And our last speaker for today is Rita Tsui, President, AsiaHRM and AsiaHR Women's Club. With over 25 years of HR experience as a regional human resources leader, working for several multinational companies in Hong Kong and Singapore, Rita has played a strategic HR role to create a positive business impact on the organization. She has achieved business successes by exceeding the company expectations in talent acquisition, mergers and acquisition, talent development, staff learning and development, and employee relations. So thank you so much for joining us today, Peck, Monique, Stephen, and Rita. I'm sure our audience will learn a lot from the insights you would share today. And now, without any further ado, let us hear what our speakers have to share with us today. So I'd like to ask a question, and I just spoke about how everything changed in the past 2 years and how organizations, and especially the HR function, had to reinvent and reimagine a lot of things. So the first question that I have for all our speakers today is, business transformation, redefined workplaces, and changed notions of work have catapulted the world of work to reimagine work culture, organization development, talent management, and employee experience. So which HR strategies and techniques have proven to work most effectively this year, according to you? And can organizations take them forward in 2022? And to answer this, I'd like to come to you, Peck, first.
Thank you, Yasmin. And we have been through a very turbulent 2 years with COVID. And I've always said I've never been more proud to be in HR because we have really stepped up to the challenge. So to answer the question, I will summarize into 5 points under A, B, C, D, E. A, I would say, we have the agility in the workforce and the flexibility in the workforce. This is something which, we are being forced to be very agile in hybrid work conditions and all that. I think that is something that we need to bring forward into 2022 and beyond. So that's A. B is really the benefits of trust and empowerment. The last 2 years have taught us how important it is to trust the leaders, to trust that our employees are doing work when they're working from home, that they're really working, to enable some of these work arrangements that are being forced upon us, and to really focus on outcomes and not micromanaging. So agility, benefits. C, change management. The rate at which the changes, 1 minute is Delta, next minute is Omicron and all that. I think throughout the 2 years, we have, HR especially, have built this change management muscles, which we have never built before. It's like when you have a new baby, you suddenly have built on these muscles which you never knew existed. So I think some of this change management muscles that we have built is something which we need to bring forward beyond the pandemic. D for me is don't do. Okay. We only have a fixed amount of time. There are several things which we find that, with limited resources, prioritize and stop doing things which are maybe important but not really critical, and really look at, how to free up bandwidth and also to learn to take care of ourselves. And finally, E for me is really focus on the employee experience. Okay. Increasingly, we need to stop doing things which we think may be the nice thing to do or it's politically right thing to do. But if we focus on the employee experience or the customer experience, more likely than not, we will be focusing on the right stuff. So A, B, C, D, E. Agility, benefits of trust and empowerment, change management muscles, don't do, prioritize, and finally E, the employee experience. So I hope that's brief enough. And
yeah, that's brief and that's so nicely put. I must say, you've actually used the ABCDE concept to the T, I must say. Agility, benefit of trust, change management, what was D, sorry?
Don't do.
Don't do, most important, and E, employee empowerment, employee experience. So very great points there, Peck. I think you've really summarized it well. I'll come to you, Monique, next. What are your thoughts? Do you think PeckChem has, hit the nail on the, hard enough?
I think, I totally agree that, ABCDE is one of the things that we have to focus on. I think also I would like to add 2 more points to that as well. Because of this pandemic, right, a lot of organizations have actually fastened and heightened the use of technology, right? And I think from HR perspective themselves, we have to equip ourselves with the use of technology and to use technology at the fingertips in things that we do traditionally, which is very transactional, but to use technology to help us to use and get data and information at our fingertips. The use of, for example, BI as analytics, the use of HRIS systems, the use of social media to reach out to our employees. I think the use of technology for us in HR needs to be competent in order for us to get the information and data. That's one. And number 2, I think it's also about the human element. As much as we have use of technology, right? HR being the H, the human, we should not lose that human connection with people. Therefore, I think for HR perspective, the business partnering, right, or the HR business partnering is ever so important now. Because we need somebody to talk to the C-level, to talk to the senior management, to tell them what's happening at the ground level and what to do, how to pivot and how to be agile in order to move the business forward. And I think it's also very important for us in HR to have that empowerment, that role and that confidence to have that conversation with the senior leadership in order for us to put our ideas and our actions across. And I think this is very, very important for us not to lose that H or the human touch in our day-to-day activities. So what it means for us, what it means for HR, and what it means for the business, the need for the HR to be tech savvy and also to be commercially driven by being agile and knowledgeable and competent to ensure interventions that we put forward to the organizations are relevant and value add to the organizations. I think that will be, my part.
Absolutely. I think you added 2 great points. I think for me, HR, what I hear from what you said also, HR is human, it is also high tech. So it's a combination of high tech and high touch that HR must keep going, no matter how fast we transform and how much of technology comes in. The human aspect has to be the core essence of how the function, HR function moves forward. And as you said, they have to be commercially driven. That's also very, very important since business became extremely close to HR in the past 2 years. And it showed how it works. So thanks for sharing that. Great thoughts. Stephen, coming to you next, what are your thoughts on some, HR strategies that have really worked?
Okay, so during this pandemic for about 2 years, I think HR has three prongs of the strategy. First, we need to respond on the employee that really get impacted with the pandemic. That is one. So employee health is become the most priority actually when we facing the pandemic. Nevertheless, we must really have thinking about how we can really take care that employee that get infected, for instance, that even have a serious illness after the pandemic event. That is one. And the second one is we need to reinvent the management of HR. For instance, like in performance management, how we can really adjust the KPI of employee during this pandemic, right? And last but not least, the one that you discussed is we need to reimagine and anticipate what is really the future of this HR. How we can really better plan of the workforce in the future in terms of digitalization and so on and so forth. So for us in financial service, as I may share that is one of the industry that get most impacted in the digitalizations. We need to close down many branches, brick and mortar branches during digitalization. So how we can really take care in our company, we think that this is digitalization, it can become the second of the pandemic for our employee. Right? So we need to prepare. And then the tagline is no one left behind. We need to take care all of the employees.
Lovely. Thanks, Stephen. I love the tagline of no one left behind. No matter, again, digitization will happen, but how do you take care of your people alongside is very important. You very rightly point out response. How do you respond to something? How do you reimagine, reinvent? These 3 R's are going to be very important for the HR function. Rita, your thoughts on some HR strategies that have really worked in the past 2 years?
Oh, thank you. I think we already got a lot of nuggets of wisdom from the speakers. And today I would like to focus on one point. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So a lot of times we have to touch their heart before we ask for a hand. So caring for our employees are most important. And I like what Stephen pointed out about taking care of employees. Especially I want to stress on taking care of the well-being of employees. If I take an analogy of health being 1, the rest is 0. Without health, we can't do anything. Everything is meaningless. So taking care of them, telling them that they are not left out, they're not lonely, even though they're sitting in front of the computer, spending the whole day for meetings. We are here to listen to you. We are here to care about your health. I think this is a message that we have to send across to them. So taking care of the well-being of the employees are most important. And you know what, I think a few days ago when I was speaking with one of the HR leaders in Malaysia who is working for a very big company, telecom company there, she also told me the same thing. Rita, what? We have a lot of wellness program and the people are just tired. Even herself is tired. I am sitting here for a whole day and even didn't have the time to go to the toilet. Sometimes when you're working from home, you spend more time in your work than actually in the office. So I just tell her that, actually your voice is listened. I hear, I kind of agree with you more. And it also shows the fact that I'm going to share with you some of the survey reports, which also confirms the thing, right? So according to the Aon survey on employee wellness in April 2021, it confirms the link between the employee wellness and the company performance. Improving employee well-being by 3%, increases customer satisfaction and retention by 1%. And whereas employee well-being performance improved by 4%, there was a 1 increase in company profit and 1% decrease in employee turnover. And one more share, about the report, because I love reading reports. Gallup recently released the State of Global Workforce 2021 report. He also mentioned that negative emotions actually are very high in South, East, and also Southeast Asia. Improving well-being is critical for recovering the region. So for the companies, if they really want to do better in their company performance. First and foremost, taking care of the well-being of employees, and they could feel it, and they will make extra mile to give back to the company. That's my message for them, and it's something that we need to do, very important in 2022. For company who haven't started doing it, please plan to do it. For company already started it in 2021, just continue doing by listening to what the staff want, and then try to make it better. That's my message.
Thanks, Rita. Great thoughts there. I think from what I've heard all our speakers say today, while we're talking about a lot of other aspects, the strategy that have worked, focusing and listening, investing into your people has been something that's been common across all our speakers. So that's a great thought to start the new year with. You focus on your people, you invest in them, they will in return make you successful as a company. So that on that note, thank you so much. And I'm moving on to my next question. So employees today need reimagining workplace and workforce should include unlearning previously implemented policies. And I think Peck made that point, a very great point. They're saying, don't do what is it that you do not need to do anymore. So as work continues to transform, work processes must evolve as well. So which conventional HR practices have turned out to be redundant amidst business transformation? And Monique, I'd like to hear from you first on that. As how would you add to the point of what Peck said, don't do certain things?
I think I would say that don't do, but also encourage to do more of certain things as well. I look at it from a different perspective. What are the things that we can do more of instead of what do you not do, right? I think one of the things I want to start off with is in terms of benefits and compensation, right? In terms of benefits, gone are the days where benefits are fixed, right? You discuss a yearly benefit with your third party or your vendor, and then you fix for everyone in the organizations. I think right now benefits are more a la carte. Is choose what you want based on your lifestyle, based on your age, based on what is required at your stage in your life. So I think benefits needs to evolve and change. It needs to be a la carte. It needs to be flexible. It needs to also be relevant. And to the employees, because we want to show we care, like all of us have said earlier. I think the second part I want to also highlight is in terms of feedback. Gone are the days when you are having a yearly performance discussion, or even a quarterly or half-yearly discussion for you to receive feedback from your managers. I think feedback should be done on on the fly. Feedback should be done on a periodic, and also in terms of very open. To give each other in terms of what are areas of development, what are the things that you have done well, and have that real conversation with people. It goes back to what I've mentioned earlier. It's about having that human touch.
Yes.
Do we have that human touch with the people? As much as we use technology on a day-to-day basis, how are we then connecting with the people? How do we show we care? And all this is through our human connections with the employees. The third part is in terms of learning and development, which is a big thing before the pandemic happens. Everyone is talking about what is the learning development, what is the newest thing in town. It's really about being flexible and agile, and also it's being a la carte as well in terms of what you offer to employees. Everyone will be interested in different things. Gone are the days where it's conventional, you follow this particular pillar in terms of where your development are, but right now it's agile, it's bite-sized, it's on the fly. It's based on what you require and what you need. And these are small bite-sized which are relevant to the people. And if you look at it, it goes back to 2 points as well. One part is knowing what the organization wants, knowing what the employees want, because I think in every industry have their own nuances. So everyone in HR needs to really grow down to the business, to understand the DNA of the business, to know what is relevant for the business. And number 2 is having technology to help you on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
I think this is very important for us because there are so much things that you need to do, like what Peck had mentioned as well. There's so many things that you want to do, but how do we use technology to help us get the information, to get the data that we want to have in order for us to support our comments, our feedback to the organizations. I think in order for us to be a competent and value add leader in the organization, it's gone our days, it's just talk, it's nice. However, what we need to do, it has to have conviction, and this conviction is through technology, and technology is through data.
Lovely. That's a great point. I think I totally agree with you that, it's when we are looking at reinventing and, we're looking at processes and practices and initiatives, it's time to go flexible. It's time to go a la carte, where you nicely said on the fly. You have to listen to your employees, understand their needs, and create, processes, policies for them accordingly. So very nicely put. Thank you so much, Monique. And technology will, of course, help you get rid of the mundane tasks and focus on what is important. So that's going to be very important going forward. Stephen, what are your thoughts on that? What are those practices that HR should just put under just shelve them forever?
I think I will not say that we need to 100% completely leave these practices, but it's more to the balance. Yeah, I think I borrow the terms of ambidex. HR need to be ambidex, meaning that quite sometimes, HR be known as the police of the HR policy. Yeah, we just monitor our employees comply. Our policy. I'm not saying that this practice will be no longer, but even we actually now becoming more balanced, because the keywords now is really agile, like Peck mentions. HR could have also an agile policy, a flexible policy. It's more on principle based rather than policy and procedures words by words. So that is pretty much, I think it's become more and more later on in the future. HR need to have this capability. First, yes, we have to make sure that we have policy to ensure consistency, fairness, but we also need to be balanced. How we can also make a principle-based decision making in order to enable organizations to become more agile. So that is my thought. Yes, ma'am.
I think I totally agree with you. As Peck very nicely started the entire conversation by mentioning the keyword agility. I think in the past few years, companies, functions, people, business leaders, the ones who've been agile have actually been the ones who've been successful in dealing with the pandemic. So that's a great example of how do you upskill yourself, how do you be agile enough to understand change and work accordingly. So great thoughts there. Thank you so much, Stephen. Peckham, I'd like to come to you next, and then I'll come to Rita with my next question. So employees today need visioning exercises, guidance, and a common set of goals more than ever to navigate their role at the workplace and produce meaningful work. So how do you think can CEOs, senior management, and other leaders of your stature ensure a more cohesive and engaged workforce? And Peckham, as you had told us that E means empowered workforce, empowering employee experience. So if you could shed some light on that, please.
Yeah, thanks, Rita. Actually, I would also like to build on what Monique and Stephen has talked about. I think as we leverage on technology, which is ever so important, I think coming together with that, and also with flexibility and empowerment and agility, I think it's important to know that there is a price that we pay for it. So as leaders, as we learn to let go and we learn to empower, together with power comes the autonomy, and you have to be responsible for it. So I think today leaders, I would say, play three critical roles. One is, with social interactions drastically reduced, right? And we are kind of, this is the first time I meet all of you, and it's just a little box, and I don't really know you very well. It really impedes the ability for us to build a trusting relationship. Okay, and for a one-time platform is fine, but if you are looking at a work environment where you really need to build that trusting relationship strong enough that you can trust this person with your life or with your livelihood. And for leaders, our employees are really putting their trust in us for their livelihoods. Okay. So I think leaders today have to really build new skills of how do you then share that vision, the mission, and to build that trust and the relationships beyond the work environment. Okay, because it then builds on how do you create that kind of work environment. And I think, first of all, I think leaders play an important role to really how to rally, motivate, and organize the employees to support the organization's mission as well as the future challenges. I think with COVID, one of the things that we are doing in the public service, for example, we talk about ABC, we have some really ambition-driving work that we want to do. So Singapore is driving towards being a smart nation. The Singapore government is trying to build more towards being a smart government. And we are going digitalization, to the max. And we are using technology to enable us in many things that we do. So with a lot of firefighting during COVID, how do you still rally people to do some of this ambition-focused work? And on top of that, we have our business as usual, the Bs. And then we also have all this COVID-related work, the firefighting work that we have to do. So in order for a leader to do that, I think, we need to make it simple enough for people to understand, like ABC, ABCDE, that kind of thing. And people, once our employees understand we are in this together, and if they trust us enough, I think it's important then for the leaders to learn how to build that kind of relationships on a one-to-one basis, okay? And not just, I tell you to jump, and then you just ask how high. Okay. Nowadays, when you tell your employees jump, they are not going to just jump or just ask you how high. They will probably say, why don't you jump first and show me that it's workable before I jump. So that's one. How do you, build new skills to really motivate and organize the employees and taking into consideration the culture and where the organization is driving towards. I think secondly, the leaders must also establish that culture of trust and flexibility in the workplace. Okay. And, what I personally do, is very easy to say, oh, trust me. I think the more someone tells you, oh, trust me, you will think twice about, well, you have to qualify by saying, trust me. I may have to question whatever you're going to say after the trust me, right? So for me, I have actually made a point and made an effort to get to know my people on a one-to-one basis. So even though we can use technology on Zoom, Skype, virtual platforms and all that, but every time we meet, it is actually very transactional. Okay, there's something we're trying to work towards. Okay, and we are not meeting because, hey, Rita, I'd like to know you better. Okay, how are your development plans? What do you aspire to do and all that? So for my team, for example, I actually tell them, on a one-to-one basis, I'm going to dedicate time once a week. Please put yourself into my schedule for half an hour each week. We will do a one-on-one. Okay. You don't have to talk about work. Let's just talk about anything you like to. And that's my attempt to build trust at the individual level.
Yes.
So that you will know me better. I will know you better. I know what are your aspirations. I know what are your, motivations, what makes you tick, and so on and so forth.
True.
And knowing from some of this like dedicated one-on-one conversations with each employee, are you able to show some level of authenticity?
Yes.
And not just because I like you, I spend a bit more time. So that's one of the things that I think leaders need to do: build that culture of trust and authenticity, so that you can flexible in how you want to manage your workforce. I think the third area, which I think Monique, Stephen, and also Rita mentioned quite a fair bit upon, is really the stress and mental well-being.
Yes.
So care for the employees. We are in a situation where we are actually very stretched, and we only have 24 hours. So as we are trying to say, be more productive, do more with less and all that, we only have 24 hours. We only have one life. Okay. So when we say do more with less, it is not to sleep less. Okay. It is be a bit smarter to use technology to replace some of the work that we have traditionally been doing. Try to use RPA, pick up new skills so that you can free up time. And again, you prioritize some of the things that you don't have to do, don't do. Okay. And if the boss is asking you, can I have, the last 3 months attrition report or something like that, and if you don't have to do it within the next half an hour, don't kill yourself by trying to complete it within the next half an hour. If you give to them a week later, the attrition numbers are not going to change because it's in the past. So prioritize and, take care of yourself so that you can take care of each other.
Yes, that's lovely, Peck, and so nicely put. I think I totally, agree with your point on building that trust, connecting with people beyond work. I think the virtual hybrid environment has become all the more important. And how authentically are you doing it? How much do you mean it from the heart when you're doing it as a leader? That will automatically transform into, an employee feeling the same for you. So great points. Thank you so much. Rita, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think, leaders work towards empowering their people and keeping them motivated?
Wow, actually, there are a lot of ways to ensure a motivated and cohesive workforce. And I would like to share with you one effective way, which is to make the senior management or the leaders as the owners of the company. By doing so, they can feel they are part of the company, right? They are the owners of company, and then they will think more on the long-term basis. They will not sacrifice the long-term value of the company for the short-term results and so forth. And they will just they think that they are part of the company, and then they will never say, that's not my job. So, and also helps motivate people and then help them to take up more responsibility. At the end of the day, they drive the company results. And I would like to share a lot of successful stories. I'm sure that you have heard of companies having this kind of ownership scheme, right? Or what we call the long-term incentive scheme. Like famous companies such as Amazon in the States, and then in China, Alibaba or Huawei, right? For this kind of companies, some are listed listed companies, but some are just a private limited company. So even startups, they also do the same thing. So, and now I would like to share with you one well-known story about Amazon on this ownership plan. Okay, so in the older days, Amazon actually held its Christmas party in a rented facility. And then the one who organized it realized that, oh, he forgot to bring a stand for the Christmas tree. You know what he did? What did he do? He just nailed the trunk of the tree to the wooden floor of the rented facility. If you're the owner, will you do that? So this is exactly the renter's mentality. You can see the difference between an owner and a renter. And even for Huawei, I'm sure that you have heard of the story that 3 years after their sellout, they offered 15% of they want to raise money, and instead of going to investors, they asked them, they were ready to give out 50% of their shares to the employees by asking them to buy the shares of the company. So nowadays they end up having 96,000 employees, which are the shareholders of the company. And you can see the substantial growth of the business result. And the staff actually work long hours, not because they are asked to, it's because they really want to, because they have become the owner of the company and they are really high motivated to do that. So we can see all these kind of things, right? And even for companies in Hong Kong, my own encounter, I have seen a Chinese medical center in Hong Kong who started with very not good business, but after they've implemented this kind of long-term incentive scheme or ownership plan, their business result actually has gone up threefold the first year, another 3 times the second year. So we can see that, you know, we are human beings, right? People will be more into it if they have become the owner of it. Of course, there's nothing perfect. There must be hiccups along the way, right? So like especially when if it's a listed company, the share price has gone down, would you motivate them? Will you demotivate them? No, I would see it differently. If it really does happen, it does happen, then it will also tell the employees that you have to work harder in order to make the stock price higher, right? So it's something that is something that I don't see, although there's hiccups along the way, but I have seen that there are a lot of positive results in the end. And so, of course, when we are trying to do it, we have to take note of a few points, like we have to hire the right people, we have a very good recruitment system, and then manage and also develop talents. And also, one more thing is very important, we have to instill a sense of accountability.
Yes.
Because for this accountability, for the highest level of customer service, it won't be possible if we don't have a very strong sense of accountability. So for me, if we need to build a sense of high accountability, making them the owner would be one of the effective ways. Yes. So I just want to conclude that, consider that, and of course it has its hiccups, but I always believe that there are always solutions more than the hiccups. So do encourage, and also if the high performers are good, make them the owner so that your company will grow even better.
Totally.
Thank you.
Really great point, Rita. I think ownership that comes along with accountability, that gives people it empowers them to feel how much of the company is their responsibility personally. And then obviously they remain motivated to work towards the success also. So a very great thought. Thank you so much for sharing that. Since we're talking about ownership, accountability, now the next thought that comes to my mind is about purpose. How do you create purpose for your people in an organization? So Peck and Monique, I'd like to come to you with this question. We're talking about going forward in a hybrid work model. That's what it's going to be like, right? And this is an era where a lot of the war for talent is also on. So how do you reimagine work to make it more purposeful and meaningful in these times for people when you're working remotely, when there's so much change happening, when there's a war for talent happening? So Monique, would you like to start first on this?
Sure. Yeah, I will also use what Peckham have tried to use, the ABC. So I will try to use this in an ABC manner as well. So I start with agility, yeah, like all of us shared. In order for us to create a purposeful, for the employees to feel a part of an ecosystem and organization, I think number one, we need to be agile, like what we have mentioned before. Agility is very important. Agility not just in terms of the organization, but also agility in terms of the employees as well. The use of technology to stay connected, to be connected, to also deliver the work for the organization. That needs to happen. So which means that the organization needs to be prepared. The way of working, the new way of working, using technology as part of their work is not just nice to have, but it's a must-have in their organization. So agility is one, which is A. Number two is being flexible. I think organizations and also for employees as well, they have to be flexible, and ever so much right now heightened by the pandemic. You have to be flexible in terms of where you're going to work, anytime, any day. I know we have talked about being able to care as well in order to put a hard stop in terms of our work, but being flexible, which means that the organization give them flexible where to work, how to work, how to deliver the work that they want to do, and also for the employees as well to be flexible in terms of what is required of them because of this pandemic, because of where they can't be working in certain offices, but they have to work at home, to be flexible as well, and also flexible in terms of the thinking. Gone are the days where this is very traditional. You show me the job description. These are my job description, and I follow according to what is being asked of me. But now it's being flexible because now you create and carve your own journey in the organization. Yeah, a position and a role is given to you, but how far you want to go and what is unique about the employee, that person has to create from themselves. And this is something that we encourage, and also we ask the employee as well to do, is really carve up your journey with an organization and how far do you want to go in the organization, and ask the organization to support you in that journey in the organization. That's two, being flexible. And number three is having the clarity and the care for the organization, and the employees. The clarity, which means that how do they do the work, what is asked of them, what is required of them, what do they need to deliver. That clarity needs to happen, and ever so important right now because you can't see employees on a day-to-day basis. They can't see you as well. The clarity in terms of what is required of them, what they need to deliver, that needs to be very clearly stated. That has to be very clearly communicated. How do they add value to the organization, to the team, to the ecosystem as well? with clear expectations, goals, which means that give them ownership. Yeah, it also ties back to what Rita has mentioned as well. Give them ownership. They're part of a bigger system. Right? Let them see the entire value chain and see how important is their role in the entire ecosystem. And that will make them purposeful and also to have clarity. And of course, the last part, the last C, would be to show care and concern.
Lovely.
To give that human part to the organization so that feel that they are part of an organization and they feel cared for.
Yes. Great. Thanks, Monique. I think very nicely put. Agility, flexibility, care, concern, and obviously compassion. I think these are going to be very important when you're trying to create purpose and once you give ownership, and Rita also very nicely said it, purpose will come through with that. So Peck, I'm coming to you now. Your thoughts on creating that kind of purpose and meaning for your people.
Thanks, Rita. I think going forward, we really need to be able to meet the aspirations of the workforce. And today workforce are really looking for meaningful work, especially when you have time and you kind of have a bit more time to reflect on, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And is this the best investment of, my time and efforts and energy and all that? And a lot of them are really looking for career development. Okay. So I think this is a multifaceted challenge that requires, for us in HR, some level of job redesign. Okay, the work is not going to remain the same 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It also requires HR to really look at skills development and instilling that mental agility in our workforce, such that each one of our employees actually think, like what Monique said, a longer career span, but made up of a diversity of different job experiences. So nowadays, employees want a buffet spread of experiences. And people are not in my time, it's like, one job, one career for the rest of your life. Gone are the days, right? Today, for all of us, you can hire somebody outstanding and they stay with you for 2 to 3 years, and it's actually considered quite good already. So I think at a macro level, how do we do it? I think we need to adopt a more structured approach to understanding the current and the future jobs landscape through strategic workforce planning. Okay. Case in point, in the healthcare sector, for example, I think Monique will be quite familiar, the role of a nurse, a healthcare professional, it's quite difficult to hire nurses, and in Singapore especially, it's very tough. And during the peak of the pandemic, I tell you, my sister is a nurse. They were working their butts off, and round shift and all that. And then you also dealt with the aviation sector, the airlines, where the wings are being clipped. All our stewardess and stewards, pilots are not able to fly. They are not able to make a living. So only with enlightened HR leaders in the healthcare industry, as well as in the aviation industry, are we able to say, hey, why don't we consider redesigning the nurse's job to a clinician part as well as a care management part? And, my Singapore Airlines are quite well known for very good service. And if we could reskill some of the airline stewardess and all that to take on some of this care management of the patients so they can free up the clinician part to the professional nurses. And that's how we make some of this conversion. And the only way we could do it is really through some form of strategic workforce planning. Okay. So through some of this strategic workforce planning, we are able to look at how do I redesign the job so that it's ready for the future. And then what kind of skills do we need to equip our people with so that they will have a job that is ready for the future, because I will be equipped with those skills. So today is no longer tenable that I just skill you for the current job. I have to think 3 to 5 years ahead. Let me make sure you acquire those skills for those future jobs.
Yes.
And the role of a recruiter, for example, has changed drastically.
True.
Okay. In the past, it's how quickly you can open envelopes and screen through the CVs and all that. Nowadays, everything is automated. So we need to think seriously of how to offer that suite of programs within the HR policies? Are you able to let people move around, acquire varied experiences, and how do you build on those experiences for the future jobs? And very important to also offer individual career coaching.
Yes. Great. Thanks, Beckham. I think it's again a great thought on how you have to firstly understand the aspirations of your people in order to make work more meaningful for them, and secondly, how can you redesign jobs and upskill your people accordingly to work into different profiles. And the example that you shared about the stewardesses and the nurse, how they came together, that's I must say, that's a great case study for other people to learn from. So that's how you'll create purpose, you'll create meaningful jobs for the future, and people will stick with you because they know there's something that they're contributing to a larger goal. So very great thought. Thank you so much. Before I move on to my final question for our panelists today, Stephen, I want to come to you with a quick question on HR technology and the role it has played in this past 2 years. And organizations adapted to technology, fundamentally redefining the way business operations can be processed. So as an HR specialist, what are the most useful tools and innovations that you have seen evolve and in your respective organizations? Stephen, what technologies, tools you think worked really well?
Yeah, I think now the most important part is to understand, what are the technology is really emerged now, because I think a couple of years ago, there are many vendors that offering our cloud system that say that this is really already the best practices. So your HR system need to follow our systems, because this is already a best practices. But I've seen a lot, I think in the last 2 or 3 years now, many company or many corporate is really building their native apps because the conditions and the maturity of corporation is totally different from one to the other. So I think HR needs to understand this, because again, with the philosophy of two things, HR needs well integrated, consumer grade, and business enabler platform. So that is really the key. Rather than you just follow, I just buy this system because other companies already, acquired the system. I think that is totally, for sure. I'm in some companies that transform with that approach totally fail, especially in the adoption level, because we try to ask the employee to adopt the system that's not really the native system for them. So that's why I think later the trend will be HR need to understand more about what is the technology emerge, because I think HR need to understand the UX. We transform it with the employee experience. HR need to have somebody that can design the human experience, human-centered design. That is one. HR need to understand the machine learning, what the machine learning can do for them. Like Monique mentions about BI and so on, right? Third one, HR need to understand also how they can really have integrated system or integrated apps for better experience. HR need to understand what the RPA all about, robotic process automations, that increase their productivity. So with all of this, I think the most important part is not the system, but the capability of HR to own, to be equipped and understand about this digitalization. And nevertheless, digitalization is not all about technology. Sometimes you can use a human touch, in a digital mindset, like Peck mentions. More dialogue, more two-way communications,
Yes.
Yeah, to understand the experience, to listen the feedback. I think this is some things that we need to be much more aware of in the nearby futures.
Absolutely. Great, Stephen. Some great thoughts. I totally agree again on the fact that HR needs to understand technology better first, and then based on that, create and adopt the kind of technology that will be consumer grade, and that will also be very high on not just implementation but adoption, which is very, very important in the end, because you can get all the technology you want. If adoption doesn't work in your organization, it's a complete waste. So great thoughts. Thank you so much for that. Now moving on to a final question for today's discussion, and I'd like each one of our speakers to share one trend on that. So future-proofing businesses with the most effective structures and employees with the most dynamic skill sets should be and will be every organization's priority going forward. So since we have, before we bid adieu to our mega panel today, I would like to hear from you one emerging HR trend for 2022. Rita, I'd like to start with you this time first. One trend, one line from each of our speakers.
Thank you, my dear. Taking care of employees' well-being,
yes,
especially on their mental wellness, would be the trend. As I mentioned earlier, that we need to show the care to our employees. Really have to touch their heart, and they would work even better for you. By doing so, I can see a lot of benefits of doing it, like minimizing the sort of the physical medical costs of the company, and then the people will become healthier, and also they will become more productive. So something that we have to do in 2022 in order to have happy workforce. With happy workforce, we can do anything. We can do anything for the organization. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rita. Great point. Stephen, what about you? One trend, one line.
Yeah, for me, it's human-centered design. That's it.
Human-centered design. Excellent. Monique, I'm coming to you now.
The emergence of a authentic, competent, and tech-savvy HR business partner.
Lovely. Authentic, competent, and tech-savvy HR business partner. Great thought. Peck, I'm finally coming to you again.
Well, I would say that, as we work towards the future of work, future of workplace, we really owe it to our employees to make sure that, we go into a system or a HR management system that is competency-based, and make sure that we skill and equip our employees, because like I said, they are entrusting their livelihood in our hands.
Yes.
So make sure we equip them with future-ready competencies.
Lovely.
And redesign the jobs so that, there will be jobs for them. Because our emphasis will be on lifelong employability and not lifelong employment.
Yes, that's such a great thought. Thank you so much, Peckham. I think we've heard some great trends from some trends that will be really relevant for 2022, not just this year. I think going forward, no matter how far we go, these things will remain important. How do you care for employees? How do you make them, how do you prepare them for the future? How do you give them the requisite skills? How do you make the right use of technology? How do you redesign jobs? How do you become more tech savvy, competent, and how do you become overall more agile in the whole process? Because change will keep happening. How are you adapting is going to be the key differentiator for you if you go forward. So great thought. Thank you so much to all our panelists, Peckham, Monique, Stephen, and Rita, for these great insights. There was so much to learn from you right from the beginning, where we spoke about A, B, C, D, E. I think that kind of really set the tone really well. And I would like to repeat that when we speak of agility, benefit of trust, change management, don't do, and empowering employees through employee experience. Great thoughts. That is how organizations are looking at reimagining work, workplace, and workforce. And I hope our audience today learned a lot from you the way I did. It was a great conversation. So that concludes today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, thank you to our speakers. For our audience, thank you for joining us. We'll see you for our next CHRO mega panel on nurturing the talent of tomorrow, taking a dynamic approach to skilling. So don't miss that, please. And do keep interacting with each other on the chat box and post your thoughts on social media using our hashtag #ETFeedMe. It would be wonderful to know how you're feeling about the event today. See you on the other side, everyone. Thank you for joining us.